We're in Sweden for round 3 of the Rotax Max Euro Challenge, and there's Britain's Sean Babington. The Dan Holland racing driver won the pre-final, and that's put him on pole for the final here in Kristianstad. After finishing second in the pre-final, Strawberry Racing's Harrison Scott moved to within a point of the championship lead, and he'll also start from the front row. And there's the man with the most slender of championship leads, Britain's Ed Brand. The Formula K Europe driver starts third, and as you can see, the drivers have their wet suits and wet tyres on, ready for the first wet final of the year. There's French driver Antoine Barthon, fourth on the grid. Then fifth, we've got this man, Bas de Laat from the Netherlands. And completing the top 6 on the grid is Britain's Andy King, another of the Strawberry Racing entries. This is the championship's first ever visit to the ASUM ring here in Kristianstad, in the far south of Sweden. Of the 60 drivers in this class, only 34 have made it through to the final. Right, this could be an interesting first lap. A huge cloud of spray as the karts accelerate over the line, but they're being sent round again. It's been declared a full start. Will it be second time lucky? The formation of the karts looks more uniform this time, and pole sitter Sean Babington gets the rolling start underway, and already we've got karts on the grass. 2 or 3 go off. We haven't even got to the first corner yet, but it is seriously slippy out there. It's going to be a real adventure for these drivers. After coming straight off the back of a dry pre-final, they're going to have to learn as they go. And Ed Brand has just run into the back of Harrison Scott at the hairpin. Scott was sent wide, and that pushes him back to third place. So that was contact between the top 2 in the championship. It's not just the surface of the track that's going to be an issue for these drivers. It's also the volume of spray that's been thrown up from it. If you're in the middle of that pack, you'll barely be able to see a thing at the moment. The only one without that problem is the leader, Sean Babington. There's Ed Brand in second. Andy King has now moved up to third. Harrison Scott has just lost another place, down to fourth. And now he's got Antoine Barthon harassing him. A bit more nudging into the corner behind them. And 290, Ukyo Sasahara manages to get past 212. Yuri Foreman. The rest of the field winds its way through the S's. And actually, given the conditions and given their lack of running in the wet at this track, they're all doing a pretty admirable job so far. Here's 299, Philip Moran, one of 5 Swedish drivers to have made it through to the final. Behind him there's Charlie Turner from Great Britain, almost squeezing past Nikolai Nielsen, the Danish driver. And the karts are just sliding out of the chicane. There's so much surface water now, but that's not going to stop Ukyo Sasahara. Lovely move from the Japanese driver down the inside of Bas de Laat. That puts him up to 6th place, but de Laat is coming back at him. Sasahara out wide, and there's Philip Moran to fill the gap that's been created. Good awareness that from the Swede to take the opportunity. And up Sasahara runs into the back of Moran. Quite a heavy impact that. You saw Moran's head jolting forward, but he stays ahead. Relentless pressure though from the Japanese driver, and he forces his way back through. He was adamant that he was going to get that place back at the first available opportunity. Philip Moran's kart looking very twitchy. He's dancing on the edge of adhesion. The slightest mistake in these conditions, and you're either in a spin or on the grass. It's easy to take this for granted when you're watching, but there are some incredible skills and reflexes being shown by these drivers. Not least Ukyo Sasahara, who is once again trying to find a way past Bas de Laat. And this time he does it on the way out of the corner. The pressure pays off, and now Moran just drives past de Laat. The Dutchman was wheel spinning out of the hairpin and drops 2 places to 8. With all the action that's been happening in the midfield, we haven't seen too much of Sean Babington, but he still leads the race. Just on the fringe of the top 10, we've got Charlie Turner with the red helmet, ahead of 219, Andreas Backman, another of the home drivers competing here in Sweden. Tell you what, if you just look at the outside of the track, off the racing line, the raindrops are hitting the track with quite some force, bouncing off the tarmac. It's getting heavier and heavier out there. There'll be a few drivers not enjoying this, but there will be others who are absolutely loving it, relishing the challenge of driving on the edge like this. Part of the thrill of motor racing is the risk, and when the weather is like this, you have to take some pretty big risks to run at the sharp end. And that's off to these guys, not quite at the sharp end. You're looking at the battle for 10th place, but they have got next to no visibility in the middle of the pack. Just imagine driving at 90 kilometres an hour, a few centimetres from the vehicle ahead, and with no windscreen wipers. There's 278, Barry Pullinger, just driving past 218, Nikolai Nielsen from Denmark. Behind them is 297, Josh Hart, all the way from New Zealand. And now the Kiwi in the grey race suit has got a good run coming onto the straight, and now he goes through. And once again, we see that if a driver is forced out wide, they quite often lose 2 places in one go. 299, Philip Moran, upholding Swedish honour, but he's still got the tenacious Japanese racer, Ukyo Sasahara, right there with him. Very, very late on the brakes from Moran, who is seriously closing the gap to Barthon in the 210 kart. Tremendous confidence to carry such speed into the corners, and now the 2 Dan Holland Racing teammates are ganging up on Andy King. King and Moran rub wheels, and King manages to fend off the Swede with some very determined driving. Dan Holland Racing is a British squad based in Telford, but they run the Alonso chassis, which, yes, is built by the company of a certain man called Fernando, hence the blue, yellow and red colour scheme that you also see on the double world champions helmet. So far, Andy King is having his best drive of the season by quite some distance. He finished 13th in round 1 at Genk, followed by 22nd in round 2 at Wackersdorp. And here he is battling for a top 6 finish. He's already been in the top 6 once today in the pre-final. Gone but not forgotten. Sean Babington is your race leader, and we haven't seen much of him, but neither has anybody else. And the reason for that is because he's miles ahead. Not bad for a man who had an issue in qualifying and had to start at the back of the grid in all of his heats. And look at this, side by side for third place as Antoine Barthon powers ahead of Harrison Scott to break the British lockdown of the podium positions. Into the hairpin, and Scott is flying back up to the Frenchman. In fact, he's flying back into the Frenchman. That was a bit ambitious. Barthon gesticulates as only a Frenchman can, and it was lucky that Scott didn't take Barthon out of the race there. Almost gives him another tap very deep into the corner. They all have to stand on the brakes, and this will delay his Strawberry Racing teammate, Andy King, who bogs down, and Charlie Turner with that distinctive red helmet almost takes advantage. There's number 299, Philip Moran, clouting the curbs, but he has now joined the back of this train, so we've got 5 carts all vying for position. And it's only a very short time ago that Antoine Barthon overtook the man at the head of this pack, Harrison Scott, to pick up third place. But the Frenchman has already pulled a big advantage. There he is on the blue and yellow Alonso kart, 6 or 7 lengths clear of this group. Harrison Scott is 4th, his teammate Andy King is 5th. Moran's just had a lunge, but he's too deep into the corner, and Turner will easily retake the place on the exit. Well, in the dry conditions at this level of competition, you would expect the top 20 drivers to be covered by just a few tenths of a second per lap. But in the wet, where there's more margin for error, things can spread out. But apart from the race leader, Sean Babington, and to a lesser extent, Ed Brand, there's been very little to choose between them in this race. We've now got 9 carts from 4th place all the way down to 11th, covered by just 3 seconds. Just a word on the championship, because this is the penultimate event in this year's Euro Rotax Max Challenge. Ed Brand is all set to pick up 52 points for 2nd place, 3 points more than Harrison Scott, who is still 4th, and that will give Ed Brand a slender 4-point lead going into the final round in France. Here's Philip Moran on the attack again. This is where he tried to pass Charlie Turner on the previous lap. This time he makes it stick, if indeed it is possible to make anything stick on that soaking wet tarmac. So that was a change for 6th place, but time is running out and there may not be enough left for any further improvement. Just a few metres to go and Sean Babington crosses the line to take an awesome victory. He was last in qualifying, but he is first when it really counts, and he wins by an astonishing 13.7 seconds. Back in the shelter of the clubhouse, here's Sean Babington on his way towards the podium. He won round 1 of the championship, he has just won round 3, and on dropped scores, he is right up there in contention for the European title. Congratulations also to Ed Brand and Antoine Barthon, who mastered difficult conditions to finish 2nd and 3rd. Harrison Scott, Philip Moran and Andy King completed the top 6. And now for the presentation of the garlands and some fantastic looking trophies. And I think it's fair to say they will rarely have to work harder in their karting careers to secure the silverware. We're all set for a thrilling finale as the drivers prepare for the 4th and final round of the Rotax Max Euro Challenge, which will come from Salbris in France. Make sure you join us. Until then, thanks for watching.